All right, everybody, good afternoon. It's Pro Football Focus time. What does Pro Football Focus think about the Seattle Seahawks? Do they think that they're doing the right things? Do they think they're doing the wrong things? I mean, the fact that the team is 4-5 and has lost 5 of their last 6 probably tells you that they're not doing the right things. But let's see how they feel about things after week number 9. Once again, these videos that I make about the Pro Football Focus grading and scoring are not meant to suggest that Pro Football Focus is always right or that they are always wrong. Just that this is what they think, and that I think that it needs to be taken into account when you're assembling your overall feel for the team. Even if you end up rejecting some stuff, even if some stuff just doesn't make any sense to you. Please like this video. If you end up liking it, click the like button down below. Helps the channel out. Subscribe if you are new. We do 3 to 5 Seahawks videos a day. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. So we're going to start with the offense, as we always do. And right away, you clearly see the bright spot this week. And it's the one that makes sense, right? JSN, who had a terrible drop in this game that led to an interception that I did call out. And I don't want to say that that interception gets completely erased, but what I can say is that JSN did everything he could to erase it. And if not for 2 penalties on Mike Jarrell, JSN probably would have broken the franchise record for receiving yards in a game. And we probably win that game. Let's be real here. Those penalties were massive in swinging this game. So is this JSN arriving, or is this just one game where he happens to have big production? I don't know, but that he looked special for the first time in his career. I thought he looked like a potentially special player, like he could be Amon-Ra, like he could be an elite slot receiver. So awesome stuff. But I think the big thing that stands out here, and this is where things get delicate with this conversation, of all the players on offense, Gino Smith ranked 2nd in overall PFF grading. He ranked 2nd. So I think that this is possibly Pro Football Focus not weighing how bad that second interception was enough in terms of how it impacted the game. That's probably part of it. But at the same time, I think people need to look at this and realize maybe this grade's a little over-exaggerated, but his body of work is still really good even in this game where he throws 3 interceptions. The body of work is there. And I'm sure Pro Football Focus is looking at like the first interception. They're saying, okay, that has nothing to do with Gino. That's all on JSN. And they're probably looking at the third one too and saying, okay, A.J. Barner was supposed to be in that spot. He's thrown to a spot. A.J. Barner's not there. It happens. That's not really on Gino either. I'm sure they're accounting for that stuff. And then they're looking at a play where he should have been intercepted on the game-tying touchdown drive when he tried to throw to Bobo, and they're saying, well, that's a bad throw. We're penalizing him for that. I'm sure Pro Football Focus knows how to look at context, but I think Seahawks fans should be able to look at something like this and go, the body of work is still very good. From snap to snap, Gino is still playing really good football. So when you consider that he pulled this off without DK Metcalf on the field, I think that this needs to be a moment where Seahawks fans come down from their angry high from yesterday and realize this is still a very good quarterback playing very good football. Third place, Charles Cross. They did not ding him for giving up a sack, which I really thought he did give up a sack in that game, but you can see overall they thought he played very well, and he's still progressing towards being a franchise-level left tackle. Still getting good things from him, still happy. Still excited to see where the development goes even into year 4 and year 5, because I don't think he's all the way done yet. I think he can still get better. Cody White had a big game, which gets rewarded with the 4th spot and the 5th spot. And this one, I got to admit, I didn't see this one coming. Laken Tomlinson with a 71.4. So I'm going to have to see what they actually gave to Laken Tomlinson in pass protection, because they graded him out very, very well in that area, 82.5. But I'm very surprised by this. The guy had a penalty. The guy clearly gave some stuff up in pass protection, and we couldn't really run the ball effectively. So that surprises me, and I don't know if I totally buy it. But I guess there's some stuff going on there that maybe we need to be a little more leaning on. I still think that the way that position was addressed in the offseason was a mistake, a big mistake, but here we are. Ken Walker gets a pretty good grade, which behind this offensive line I think is pretty fair. Even the offensive linemen we have that were passable in this game were very lackluster run blocking. So he's doing what he can. Maybe there were a couple plays where he danced a little too much, but overall, he's doing what he can. Farrell Brown, it's a tiny sample size, doesn't really mean anything, but he gets graded out okay. Lockett gets a pretty good grade as well, which I think about makes sense. He wasn't super productive, but he's out there doing what he can do. Charbonnet, decent grade. Connor Williams, actually pretty decent, which I gotta be honest, man. I think the bad snaps alone should cap him at like a 55. And then I think you have all the plays where he's a turnstile. I don't know. This is not reflecting what I'm seeing. I'll put it to you that way. But I guess it's worth noting that he's not atrocious. We got a couple guys who played one snap. Derek Young, Chenault, they didn't play enough to matter. George Fant, I mean, you can see that it's not like he's playing great even when he's out there, but he is better than what we have with Gerald. So George Fant probably would have made a little bit of a difference in that game, and losing him in the first quarter hurt. Brady Russell didn't play enough to really matter. AJ Barner graded very poorly, which surprises me. I thought he actually played a pretty good game, but you can see they're dinging him pretty heavily, probably for the drop, but there might be one or two other plays mixed in there as well. I don't think Barner played that poorly. And you've got Bradford near the bottom here, which makes sense to me. I thought he was really, really bad. Big regression. Bobo near the bottom. He just isn't good. He's good at a couple of things, but they're not really the skill set you look for from a receiver. And Mike Jarrell, I mean, we don't even need to talk about it. The dude is every bit as bad as Stone Forsythe. He really is. And we need a real right tackle next time we take the field. Period. Even if that guy is George Fant, who's barely a real right tackle and will probably get hurt again after 20 snaps. We need to do better than Jarrell. 4 penalties in one game from a right tackle. Deeply, deeply, deeply unacceptable. Gino Smith's passing chart from PFF is, I mean, there's some encouraging stuff here, right? Like, there is some stuff here that you like over last week. At least he was able to push the ball down the field. He went, 5 for 7 on passes more than 20 yards down the field. So he's actually able to take some shots. He wasn't able to take any shots against Buffalo. No shots against Buffalo because nobody was open. Nobody could get down the field. In this game, he was able to take some shots, and he hit. He hit big time. So that part I like. Still using the middle of the field more than any other part of the field. He's using the middle of the field. What are we talking about here? 14 times in this game. On the left side, he's got, 9 attempts, and on the right side, he's got 9 attempts. So it's all about the middle of the field, and that, for the most part, that's working, right? For the most part, that is working pretty well. The one incompletion he had in the short middle was the JSN drop, where it turned into an interception. So I like what I'm seeing there. It's just didn't quite have enough gas to actually result in a win on this particular weekend. Rushing direction, I like to look at this every week. Rushing direction, I mean, I don't know how much can be learned from this, right? It seems like we had a little more success on the left side than the right side, but at the same time, there was some stuff going on the right side that wasn't bad. Like, I'm trying to divine stuff from this. Like, it looks like the areas of greatest success were off the left end. So that would be to Cross's side, on the opposite side of the tight end on that side. So I'm kind of looking at that, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe Charles Cross is your best run blocker right now, too. Maybe you should be running behind him more. And you can see that when you're running to the right side, it's all over the place. Like, middle right is a disaster. Off right guard and off right tackle is pretty okay. Right end is atrocious. I'm just trying to figure out what this team does well at running so we can at least run a little bit throughout a game. and only do those runs. Like, if there are certain things on this team that just aren't working at all, like you can't run behind Connor Williams and Anthony Bradford, then don't do it anymore. So this is a little bit hard to really read too much into because nothing really stands out super strongly, but I feel like there's some stuff here that you can divine information from, like running behind Connor Williams and Anthony Bradford did not work at all in this game. Pass blocking stats from PFF. I will say this, Gino Smith got sacked 7 times in this game, and PFF gave 5 blocks to blockers, which means you can infer from that they think that 2 of the sacks were on Gino. So, always worth noting. But you can see the guys who gave up the sacks. Charbonnet, which, I mean, he's still our best pass protector out of the backfield, but that is, it's rough for him to give up a sack. I think the sack he gave up probably should have been shared with another player, but regardless, Anthony Bradford gives up a sack and 3 QB pressures, which as a right guard is deeply unokay. Deeply, deeply, deeply unokay. Mike Jarrell, 2 sacks and 4 total pressures. Really, really not okay. And George Fant in very limited time, and you can actually see that you can make an argument that if Fant had stayed in the game, it would not have been better in pass protection than Jarrell. It probably would have been better run blocking, but not necessarily in pass protection. He gives up a sack and another pressure. Cross gives up 3 pressures, but they don't give him a sack, which surprises me, but okay. Connor Williams gets dinged for 2 pressures, which, again, surprises me. I thought he gave up a sack in this game, but there you go. And that's really about it. It's all pretty bad. It is worth noting they gave nothing to Laken Tomlinson, so it makes sense why his grade is so high, which I'm going to have to rewatch that game and focus on Tomlinson. I thought he was getting beat up out there, and this grade indicates, and this scoring indicates, not the case. Finally, run blocking. I don't really like to look at run blocking stuff from PFF that much. I don't feel like you learn that much. I do think it's interesting to look at zone versus gap. And you can see we're running more zone than gap by a pretty decent margin, which makes sense, especially against this Rams team that is a little light up front. But our best run blocker in this game by far was JSN, which, good for JSN. I mean, that's awesome. If he wants to turn into a quality run blocker, that would be an incredible plot twist, but at the same time, that tells you something about the offensive line, right? Cross had a good grade. Pharaoh Brown had a good grade, but it's only 6 snaps. And then you kind of dive down into the guys who are just mediocre. Mediocre is not cutting it. And honestly, I think these grades, by and large, are a little bit high. I don't think the run blocking was even as good as this indicates. But then you've got, Jake Bobo at the bottom here. Run blocking is all he does. So you look at the season so far, Bobo isn't even getting good scores run blocking. So if he can't do that, then he really doesn't need to be playing at all. He needs to be a special teams only guy. All right. So that's really all I can say for the offense on PFF. I think there's some stuff to learn here. There's some stuff that I question, like Laken Tomlinson's grade and Connor Williams' grade. But there is some stuff here that I think can be maybe even a little bit of a chill pill after what was a pretty emotion-filled game. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Defense coming later.